Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Do It Anyway. I started a new job in a warehouse as a forklift driver about 5 years ago. Night shift. This place was supposed to be tip-top in health and safety, as they had an accident 2 years prior on site in which a poor worker lost his life due to a forklift collision. I did my first day shift, did lots of training and provided my license. The old guy there that was very firm with these policies didn't believe it was a real license and had to check it. But it was. Passed the instructor training too. Went on to start my very first night shift the next day. All night long I'm driving this really bad 5 miles per hour forklift, loading lorries. Part of the safety checks was to ensure that the wooden deck was clear of debris and that the curtains were safe too, without any rips or tears. The last wagon I had to load at like 5:30 AM, half an hour before finish, was a state. The decking was wet because there were so many holes in the curtain and it had been raining down all night. So I reported it and refused to load it. The manager comes along and I get the whole "load it or you can quit." So I loaded it, filled it halfway until the accident happened. While reversing, the back wheel slid on the wet deck and went through the curtain, causing the forklift to topple. It was only supported by the curtain. This was the only accident I had ever had and I was well shaken up. I reported to my manager, who tried to pin the blame on me, and at 5:50 the day shifts started turning up. I got my things and left. As I was coming around the front of the building on my way out, they had decided to open the curtain and it collapsed in a heap. I never went back. The agency I was working for tried giving me hell from the manager, but I just told them that I worked 8 hours, I want 8 hours pay and to screw off. Probably should have tried reporting them, but their word against mine and all that. The next story is called Work Less. I work nights in an industry that is very heavily seasonal. Because of this, we have what are, in my country of residence, known as annualized contracts. We get paid the same 35 hours per week every month, regardless of how much or how little we work. This is the only way that my employer can keep employees over the slow season. Night workers are limited to a maximum of 8 hours per shift. In the busy season, 4 to 5 months per year, we work up to 40 hours, as opposed to the slow season, 7 to 8 months per year, when we work 20, sometimes less. In both seasons, we are paid 35 hours per week. A very important detail is that night workers' contracts cannot be changed unilaterally in this country. The worker must agree to any change in either the time we start or the time we finish, because it may have an inordinate impact on household planning, childcare, etc. This year, during the busy season, some bright light in management decided that it would be more cost effective if we started an hour later. This would obviously push our finishing time an hour later into the morning, from 6:30 AM to 7:30 AM. We were informed of this by email on the last day of the working week, and it would take effect the following week, so 2 days notice. Keep in mind that communication between ourselves and management has a 24-hour delay, due to work emails only being accessible at work. Q. Malicious compliance. We send a reply by email, which management would see the following day, but to which we would not see the reply until we arrived at work at the start of the following week. No problem, we are happy to start an hour later, but fail to see the advantage, because we all have pressing household planning needs that require us to leave work at our original finishing time. So we'll be losing an hour's work. Note that this would have had no impact on our pay, because it stays the same regardless, so we'd be working an hour less with the same pay. We happily came in at the start of the next week, an hour later than usual, to find a reply. On second thought, never mind. Management has decided that this would not be cost effective after all. No kidding, how perceptive. The third story is called No Regrets. I graduated in 2009. I was a guardsman, so I needed a full-time job. The economy was less than stellar, so I did a stint as an armored car driver. I got to work at my scheduled time of like 6 AM. I'm going over the truck. The tires are bald, you can see the cable. The seat didn't adjust, so that meant someone zip-tied a block of wood to the gas pedal. I told my boss, and he said, "Yeah, the truck needs to go out." I said, "This will not pass any DOT inspection whatsoever." We have bald tires, a zip-tied block of wood on the gas pedal and various other safety issues with this truck. My boss said, "You can either drive it or quit." I decided to stay. I was making $10.50 an hour and was having trouble finding work. My partner realizes the stupidity of this whole situation. It's also in Wisconsin. It was winter and it was snowing, so we took the car out. I'm driving along on the highway, and as I'm approaching a ramp, I realize we weren't downshifting. It's an automatic truck. The gas pedal was wedged between the floor and the center console, so now I'm using one foot on the brake and the other to free the gas pedal. At our stop, we called DOT and asked for an investigation and reported everyone who made these calls. They ended up having to use U-Hauls to carry money because so many vehicles were needing service. Instead of actually doing maintenance, they just ignored it. A few people lost their jobs over that. Many customers complained to corporate, which helped facilitate a buyout by a very large company that we were using U-Haul trucks to haul money. I have zero regrets over what I did. The last story is called Make It Go Faster. I work as a medical laboratory scientist in a fairly large 600-bed regional hospital. I'm the one that runs all the tests your doctor orders. Our testing areas, or benches in the lab, are 6 different types, each of which has several analyzers, machines ranging from the size of a microwave to the size of a hippo, used for testing different things. I work nights, so it's just a skeleton crew in the lab. 2 of us lab techs, 1 lab assistant and 2 phlebotomists who double as specimen processors. As you can imagine, things get pretty busy with many benches to cover for that many patients and just the 2 of us to cover them. Much of the testing takes upwards of 15 to 20 minutes or more to run on the analyzer, depending on the test, and some are a lot longer than that. Most of the nurses and doctors understand our constraints, and while we do get the occasional call asking when results will be ready, they mostly leave us alone. Well, last night I had a doctor calling for the results on a hepatitis panel. These are not usually considered STAT tests, but this one was ordered as such, so I got it running right away. But the panel takes a long time to run, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes, depending on if it's reactive and reflexes to further testing. The doctor called me after I'd only had it on the analyzer for 15 minutes. I informed him it would be at least another half hour, maybe as much as an hour and a half longer, and he told me that was ridiculous and said that it had never taken that long before. I said I was sorry, but that was the only estimate I had to give him. 35 minutes later, the doctor walked into the lab. For those who don't know, this is an extremely rare occurrence. We see nurses and such all the time, but doctors are too busy to ever come down themselves unless it's a dire situation. Hi, how can I help you? Are you the one I talked to on the phone earlier? Is my report ready yet? I'm not seeing it in the chart. Let me check. No, it looks like it's still running. The current estimate is another 30 minutes, and I'll be sure to release the results to the patient's chart as soon as it's finished. 30 more minutes? That's insane. You told me 30 minutes on the phone 35 minutes ago. I told you at least 30 minutes and said it could be as much as an hour and a half. 30 more minutes is actually right in the middle of my original estimate. This is totally unacceptable. You need to do something to make the machine go faster. I had about reached my limit with this guy. So at that point, I turned around and walked a few steps over to the analyzer in question. I leaned in close to where I could hear the machinery buzzing along and yelled, "Go faster," as loud as I could. When I turned back to the doctor, I noticed his face was an odd shape of purple as he turned around and stomped out of the lab without another word. He could write me up for unprofessionalism, but not without revealing himself to be a total jerk in the process. So I think I'm safe. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.